And I've just been so impressed at how smoothly everything goes. Like it fixed all my problems immediately. My labor hours in having to ask questions or having to fix things have just gone way down. The pricing is really fair and really like straightforward and transparent. I just like the safety and security of knowing that my business is operating entirely legally and is in full compliance everywhere. So no hidden fees, no hidden labor hours on my end, and no like, oops, oh my gosh, we've been doing this wrong the whole time type stuff. So I'm a former speech language pathologist and university professor who started doing online continuing education courses for SLPs. And as our business grew, I didn't have a background as an entrepreneur. I don't have an MBA. I don't have any business training. I'm just a professor who taught for many years. But once we started selling, once I started selling online courses, I had a business that just kind of grew and grew, and we employed more SLPs to teach courses and whatnot. And we started to get to the point at which I was networking with other small business owners, and they were saying things to me like, oh, are you having to pay sales tax yet in some of these states? And I was like, what? Like, because at the very beginning, a lot of newbie entrepreneurs have no idea how any of that works. You just get online and you start selling a product and you don't even realize what is and isn't legal and at what point you're supposed to do certain things. You just assume that if somebody wants to buy something from you online, that they just click buy, the money goes into your account and it's a done deal, right? And so I had to start doing some research around that and realizing, oh yes, like there's some states that we need to start paying sales tax to, and there's some states that we're going to, hit that threshold soon. And that was kind of a complicated thing for me to learn about. But I had initially gotten some tips from some accountants about kind of like the big, sales tax software that they recommended that we use. And I had comped two of the most common companies, and I chose the one that was a little bit cheaper than the two, used them for probably 5 years, perhaps. Okay. But it was a horrible experience. As a small business owner, and I guess in this context, I'm just defining small business owner as anyone with maybe under 5 million in revenue, where you're in a position where, there's a few states you might need to register in. You're constantly monitoring whether or not you're about to hit Nexus in a given state and whether or not you're going to have to register there and stuff like that. For the small business owners, those kind of big companies, it just wasn't working at all. And so, I thought it was me, after 5 years of being why is this so difficult? Why do I reach out and never get any support? Why is it so hard to understand? Why is it so complicated? Why does it take me so many labor hours every single month just to get this basic little sales tax returns filed, And so I started shopping around and just searching online for other companies that small businesses were using, and came across your company in an online thread with other small business owners. And I was like, okay, this has been a horrible enough experience historically that I just need to try something new. I've now been using Galvix for, I think it's a little over 2 years. I would have to look at the calendar to see, but the memories of things not going well feel like a distant memory. So it has to be at least 2 or 3 years. Yeah. But everything that my entire experience with Galvix has just been so simple and straightforward the whole time. If I have a question, my question gets answered. And I just rarely have questions or concerns because things don't tend to go wrong. The app works perfectly. Everything is always done correctly. Nothing ever gets screwed up or, confused or whatever. And it's just really easy for me to use on my end, so that it's really just no longer a major chore and a major pain point. It's just something that's almost entirely automated. And I just check in every so often to make sure everything looks right, and it does. And then we just keep going. So
I mean, this is so inspiring and so motivating to know, actually. And I think you chose the word, which I really love, that it's very simple and straightforward, because that is how it should be. I mean, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, there are just so many other problems to deal with and so many fires going on all the time, that sales tax certainly has to be something which is off your table, right? And it has to be simple enough. And that's the entire purpose of starting Galvix, actually. And so was there a particular, you still used them for 5 years, right? So was there a particular trigger or something happened because of which you decided that no, it's time now to look for an alternate solution? Or was it something which you were thinking for a long time?
It basically was an issue where anytime I had even the simplest question, I would get passed around to a bunch of different people who would say, oh, this person can answer it. Oh, that person can answer it. Oh, that person. And I'm a very patient person. I don't mind that, but it was the case where 6, 7, 8 weeks would go by and I would never get an answer to the basic question that wasn't complex tax advice in any way. It was, this looks wrong in this place, is that an error, or whatever, just basic questions. And it was a chore that I always had on my to-do list, reach out to them again every 2 weeks, where I'd be like, okay, I'll reach out, and then I'll patiently wait 2 weeks and see if they reply to me. And I'd have to set a recurring calendar reminder on, my calendar to ever get any support. And the app also was like really confusing to use. Like it just wasn't straightforward. It was hard to monitor like what was happening in a given month and what was being paid where and what was being sent where. Just the entire process was clunky, and the lack of a human being to be able to answer a question when something looked wrong or I was confused about a thing was the biggest issue. Yeah.
Got it.
And we were paying so much too. Like we were paying so much. And I remember I just kept thinking, I was like, on what planet does it make sense that you're paying tens of thousands of dollars for something and you have to wait like 8 weeks to get even a basic question answered? That's why I kind of wonder if some of those big operations, like I just always kind of had this hypothesis that maybe my business is too small. Maybe my business is like I feel like I'm paying them enough to, get the service or whatever. But that just was never the case. I knew that it wasn't going well, and I knew that it was really inconvenient to use. I could never get support. Things were always messed up, but I thought it was me. I thought it was me because like I'm a small business owner. Like maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I am, getting confused about things. Maybe I'm the problem, because when certain companies are like the largest ones in a space, you just kind of default assume things must be operating appropriately. Like if something isn't going well, it has to be a me problem, right? And so it was a horrible experience the entire time, but I always thought that maybe I just needed to be patient, and maybe like it was, I don't know, something I was doing wrong. And then it just finally got to the point where I was like, no, this is crazy. Like this is ridiculous how bad the experience is. And so that's what triggered me finally leaving. But it took me a long time to leave the other company's services, simply because I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be getting.
What were the top like apprehensions or worries or hesitations that you had in your mind? Especially because you were potentially switching from a established company to a much smaller company, right? So were there any worries that you had in mind before you made the switch?
I actually felt like I was kind of taking a risk by switching to Galvix because I knew that it was a smaller company, but I was like, I don't care at this point. Like I'm just going to try this other company. And I've just been so impressed at how smoothly everything goes. Like it fixed all my problems immediately. And so it's just been so much better. My biggest concerns with switching with something like that are always just, sometimes you worry that at the surface it looks like a good idea, but then there ends up being problems once you make the switch. And the problems that I would always be most concerned about is like hidden costs and fees. Like might this be more expensive than we're thinking it's going to be? Or hidden labor hour issues where like something seems really simple to do, but how much time am I going to have to spend auditing things, fixing things, asking questions about things. So it's like the hidden cost and the hidden labor hours things. Those are always my biggest concerns. And then the other one is just it being done right. You know what I mean? Because like that's the whole reason that, that's like I like to be able to sleep at night knowing that I'm not going to have some like multi-$1,000 fee coming to me in some future year because something was done wrong for like, months or years on end. And so that's always the other one too, is like, how do I know that this is being like done correctly? But we've had none of those issues, like none. So no hidden fees, no hidden labor hours on my end, and no like, oops, oh my gosh, we've been doing this wrong the whole time type stuff.
But is there anything that comes to your mind, like even though these worries were there, but you decided to kind of give it a try? And unlike many other softwares like that we may use for our businesses, like sales tax is not one of those plug and play thing, right? There is always a switching cost, and it's all to do with legal and compliance, right? So it does take like a level of conviction to make that switch, right? So is there one particular thing or any particular thing that comes to your mind that kind of convinced you that yes, even though these potential risks are there, it's okay to make that switch?
Yeah, it was the conversations with you, both live and email, and the contract where, you told me how it would work, and any questions that I your answers were just so clear, straightforward, and easy to understand, which that kind of syncs up well, like my perception of, oh, this person is trustworthy. They know what they're talking about, and they're being very clear with me, and I fully understand, and this is really straightforward. That lines up really well with, your company values of transparency, being someone who knows nothing about that myself whatsoever. And that was one of the things that convinced me, is everything was just so clear and transparent, and there were no like this is a mystery and we'll see how it goes. It was just very like, this is how it works. This is how much it costs, and it was just so straightforward. And that's always what you're looking for, is like partners in business where partnering with them makes things easier for you, not harder for you. Like that's the whole goal,
Is there one particular metric or one particular thing that you feel like that was the biggest kind of aha moment or most significant way in which kind of, Galvix made sales starts easier for you?
Yeah. My labor hours in having to ask questions or having to fix things had just gone way down. Like that's the biggest difference, is I don't have to be nearly as involved with like fixing issues or asking a million questions about things, because everything is just so much more straightforward and just goes well. Yeah. So previously, in a given month, I was probably spending 5-6 hours on stuff. And in months where I had a question, it was way more than that. It would be like 10 hours in a month, because I would get passed among so many different people and getting conflicting information and have to kind of do my own research to figure out which answer was the correct answer type stuff. And now I spend, I don't know, 20 minutes most months. And then every so often I look at things more carefully just to do due diligence on my end, where I'm like, okay, do we have all the states that we're supposed to? Does the amounts make sense in all the states? And so I'll spend an extra couple hours every like quarter or so just to make sure that nothing looks weird. But it's always fine. Just the way things are presented in like with the monthly like work that I have to do with approving returns and stuff, just the fact that everything is like all on the same page stacked, and I don't have to open up a million tabs and a million pages in order to like click approve here and then click approve there and click approve there. It's really well organized in a way that allows me to be able to see everything on one screen, group things appropriately, scan with my eyes across the rows, make sure it all makes sense, and we're, good to go. Yeah. It's not overbuilt either, where there's a million different features and tabs and things you could be doing. And so you don't know what stuff you might be missing. It's just really straightforward. Yeah, it's very obvious that, people who have good experience with app development and UI UX were involved in the creation of this, because it's easy. You're right. I've never once had to go to like a help page and search to try to figure out how to do a thing ever, because it's just obvious how to do it.
Anything that comes to your mind, any experiences that you would like to share with us, like, on the customer support side itself?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the customer support at Galvix. It's, I know that you have, lots of people to be dealing with and lots of customers, but anytime I've had a question, I've been able to get it answered really quickly and answered in a straightforward way, where I'm not reading like 8 paragraphs and have to figure out, okay, what does this mean? But instead, it's just super straightforward, which also emphasizes that you all know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about. Because anytime a customer support team gives you confusing, convoluted answers, a lot of times it means that they don't actually know for sure what the answer to your question is. But when you get, a straightforward, like 3-sentence answer, it's so much better, because you know that you're getting the correct information, and it's, easier on me. But one thing that like really solidified it for me as being really important, aside from the fact that I'm a rule follower and like to be able to fall asleep at night, that I'm doing things appropriately, is just the fact that like for the long term, your business isn't sellable if everything isn't done appropriately. It's one of those things that if you haven't been doing it the right way for years on end, and then you go to try to, grow your business or sell your business in any way, lack of compliance and is going to end up being a thing that's an issue. And so that's one of the reasons it's really important to me, is because I just like the safety and security of knowing that my business is operating entirely legally and is in full compliance everywhere.